Hello and welcome to State Matters. I'm your host, Matt Muratore. Affordable housing is an issue most talked about in our communities. Today, to join us in this discussion is a Rental Assistance Director for Housing Solutions Rental Assistance Department, Angelica Gomez. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
So that's a big organization. That's a big name. Now, what did that organization used to be?
So we were South Shore Housing a few years back.
Out of Kingston, right?
Out of Kingston.
Yeah, okay.
So we have an office in New Bedford, and then we also have an location in Brockton.
Yeah.
We oversee both Bristol and Plymouth counties. We wanted to make sure that we're expanded so that our clients can reach us. So we went from South Shore Housing to Housing Solutions for Southeastern Massachusetts.
Because you took over New Bedford.
Exactly, because
Okay.
we oversee the whole Southeastern piece, and so we wanted to make sure that that was reflected in our name.
And where is the office in Kingston?
169 Summer Street.
Okay, all right, good. So we always start off our show with knowing who our guests are. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and
Okay.
all that good stuff.
So my name again is Angelica. I am from Bogota, Colombia in South America.
Oh, nice.
And so I came here a few years back because I was doing my master's degree in human services.
And where were you doing that?
In Northeastern University.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable how many people we have on the show that go to Northeastern. I'm a graduate from Northeastern as well.
Oh, Huskies.
Yeah, I know, and we never pick the people that way, but it seems like everyone that comes on is from Northeastern, so that's great.
We're pretty smart people.
Yeah, I think we graduated in different decades probably, though. That's
Maybe.
Okay.
It was just a few years ago. So I came here to Massachusetts just because I was very interested in kind of advancing my professional career and learning more about human services. My background is in anthropology.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's fun.
What made you want to go into that?
I need to learn more about people and cultures, and I was very young and I wanted to travel and see the world and whatnot, and so then I settled down and I started learning about housing and all the challenges that our communities face in Colombia and here, and I was just attracted to this field. And so in my previous job, I worked for Crittenton Women's Union, now it's called Empath. So I was the assistant director for supportive housing. So I was running.
Now, where was that?
In Boston.
Boston, okay.
Mainly in Dorchester, Mattapan.
Okay.
So I was running their supportive housing. So a lot of congregate shelter, domestic violence shelter. So that's kind of my background. And I joined Housing Solutions around 4 years ago, and I took over the rental assistance department, and that's where I am right now. It's challenging but fun.
Yeah. What's it like in Colombia with housing and here? What's the differences you see?
Wow, in Colombia, there is not a lot of affordable housing. It's run.
So we have a lot more here?
Oh, much more.
And we don't think we have a lot at all.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
And I tell a lot of my staff and my people when I talk about the importance of housing, how if Colombia had stations and seasons during the winter, probably half of our population would die just because there is a lot of homelessness. And here, Massachusetts is a great state to be because we care about our homeless population. We care about our people. There are services, there are shelters, there are people like you who care. And so those services are in place to assist our families. And so that's a huge difference out of the bat.
Wow. So I know it's a complicated organization, but talk about the organization and some of the programs they have and how they benefit the people. And also talk about the funding of some of this as well. I assume a lot of the funding comes from the state?
Yes, so the majority of our funding does come from the state. We run different programs. So our home-based program, it's in partnership with the Department of Transitional Assistance. We get referrals from our homeless coordinators to us when people are facing homelessness. So they're referred to us for a first month rent, security deposits last month, just rental assistance, temporary rental assistance. Then we have our RAFT programs that are also temporary assistance that assist individuals and families.
What's it called?
RAFT, rental assistance for transition families.
Okay. And that's different than home base?
Yes,
Okay.
they're different. They're both state funded.
Okay.
And then we have our rental assistance department, which I oversee, where there are what we regularly call Section 8 voucher holders. We have the Massachusetts Rental Voucher Program, which are also state funded. We have project-based units where the apartments have a subsidy. And then we have an array of what we call special programs. So housing for veterans. We have housing for people with AIDS, and those are all state-funded programs. So the state contribution is huge to all our programs. We also provide homebuyer education, counseling prevention for foreclosure, and we do monitoring of 40B rentals to make sure that they stay affordable in our communities. And then we have our own portfolio of around 500 affordable units that we have developed, 300 of those that we own and maintain still.
Oh, you do own? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And where are all those? Are those in the
They're
South
located-
Shore or down South Coast as well? Or?
In both. So
In both,
we are
okay.
in Bristol and Plymouth counties
Yep, okay.
serving, we touch around 12,000 people a year within our different programs. And so those are located in both counties.
So if you could touch upon the qualifications on some of these programs, I think that would be helpful for people.
Yeah, so in our rental assistance program, we bring people from our wait list. So our
How
Section
many people
8,
approximately on wait list for that?
so we have around 10,000 people in our wait list. It takes around 10 years to get into a
people.
Section 8 voucher. Yeah.
Wow.
So the Department of Housing and Community Development is currently doing a purge. So that'll change because it'll clean up that wait list to make sure that participants that are applying, applicants that are applying, are getting there quicker. So we look at their current income compared to where they applied. So their income in Brockton might be totally different than an income in Duxbury, for example. So we bring the participants, the applicants in, and make sure that eligible for these programs. Some of our project-based programs where the subsidy is held in the unit, you can apply through the wait list and the actual development, which are privately managed and owned. So a lot of times we have partners like Beacon Communities supporting us.
What's
to
Beacon
maintain.
Communities?
So it's a property management. They're private property managements that work in collaboration with us to maintain wait lists to affordable units in the community.
So what are some of the income qualifications for some of these programs? Are they all the same? Are they different?
So they're all different. If you're, for example, applying to RAFT, you need to be in a place where you're facing eviction or you're double up in somebody's home or at risk of homelessness.
So they could be living in a situation like renting a room for somebody or
Yes.
renting and somebody's rent all of a sudden goes way up. Then they can come
Absolutely.
to you for help.
Yes.
Okay.
There might
So it's
be,
not really an income eligibility for that.
so
then.
it depends on the actual program. A program like RAF, which is temporary assistant, is basically you need assistance now. We'll bring you in, determine if you qualify for the program and what you're currently facing. For example, domestic violence is one of the issues that we absolutely support a family through. You need to flee a house, you need to vacate a unit right away, you're at risk to be homeless. So if that's happening, please call us. We're here to serve you.
Okay, all right.
So the income varies depending on the program that you're applying to, whether it's temporary assistance or permanent assistance.
What if
more
it's
long-term.
permanent? Yeah, what are those sort of income qualifications for something more
So
permanent?
we look at the area medium income, and that varies depending on the city where you are. Just like I was telling you, somebody making $50,000 in Brockton, it's not looked as the same as somebody making $50,000 in a place like Duxbury, just because the affordability in regards to renting is
Because
much
it
more
costs
different.
more in Duxbury
Exactly.
to live than it does Brockton.
Exactly. So our more affordable towns like Fall River tend to be, the income, it's much lower to be able to qualify, just because Fall River in general is much more affordable than Duxbury or Hingham. So the income is varying depending on the town which you're applying from.
Do you deal with, and you mentioned veterans, that you deal with veterans as well?
Absolutely, we have.
Are you seeing an increase in veterans coming across?
We do. We have a whole special program that we have in partnership with veterans from HUD. So it's called VASH. We have a special portfolio where we support our veterans. We have specific vouchers designated for our veterans. It's crucial for us to be able to support our veterans that have served our country. And so there is a lot of mental illness, a lot of stigma there. And so we work in partnership with HUD and our veterans so that there is case management provided by veterans to veterans, and we support them with housing, which is crucial.
And there's income eligibility requirements for that as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. So, in the opening, we talked about what where you work, and it was a long title and all that. So tell us about what your role is. It sounds very involved.
Yeah,
And how many staff do you have under you and things like that?
All right. So I oversee the rental assistance department. I manage a portfolio of around 3,200 families. So it's vouchers from different areas. So it could be tenant-based vouchers, meaning they hold a voucher and they are mobile. So they can rent in any apartment they want. So those can be federally funded, like commonly known as Section 8, or they can be state funded, which is the Massachusetts Rental Voucher Program. And I also manage an array of specialty vouchers, like I was telling you, VASH vouchers that are for veterans. We have HOPWA vouchers that are housing opportunities for people with AIDS. We have programs that are dedicated to families who are trying to unify with their children that have lost custody. So they need a safe place to bring their children back home, and they're working with DCF so that they can continue that unification plan. We have vouchers that are tied to units that are affordable. So when a family qualifies for that, it's called a project-based voucher. And so a family qualifies for that unit, but if they move out, the subsidy remains in the unit, making it affordable for many, many families to come and go.
I was going to ask you that. Now, do you see many families that can be successful and they can get away from vouchers and and can afford something else on their own?
Absolutely.
How successful do you see that happening?
So this is what we strive for, economic self-sufficiency. So we have a whole special program called the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, where we support our families one-on-one, and we provide this heavy case management with education and workforce development in connection with our state universities. Bridgewater is a key component for us.
Now, what does Bridgewater do?
Bridgewater State University.
Yeah, what do they do for this?
They support us, so they provide a lot of training for our participants. We do a lot of workforce development through them. Say for University of Dartmouth, everything in our territory, we kind of reach out to all our partners and other nonprofits so that we can bring up that economic self-sufficiency in our participants.
And they help train these people on how to do that?
Yes, absolutely. Wow. And there is a lot of partnerships going on with other local agencies so that we can move our families towards self-sufficiency. So a lot of our families do go out and go into our home buyer education programs and end up buying homes, which is what we're looking for, to move our participants along so that we can free up some of those vouchers for those families who need that transitional assistance and that permanent assistance.
What sort of percentage of people actually do that?
So, so we have right now around 5% of our Section 8 voucher holders involved in the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. Not everybody purchasing a home and leaving our program has to be involved in that. So a lot of people feel that they're ready to move on, and they give up their voucher, they voluntarily give up their voucher and
Is it a higher percentage of people that do that?
It tends to be working families, just because Massachusetts is such an expensive state to live in. It takes some time to get into economic mobility to a place where you can feel comfortable living DTA and the support systems that you have. So that's what we call the moving forward, the economic prosperity that we're trying to launch.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. You brought up workforce housing. And housing has been a real issue that we've been talking about at the State House. The governor's, one of his top 5 priorities is housing.
Yeah.
Actually filed a $1.8 billion housing bill, bond bill. Unfortunately, it didn't pass at the end of July, but I'm confident that it will pass in 2019. I know there's a lot of discussion about it among my colleagues about it, and there's a need everywhere for it. So I think everyone agrees with that. But it's the formula from the AMI, the Area Medium Income, that comes out of HUD from the federal government, that creates this difficulty in workforce housing that you brought up. Because the income is tied to Boston income. For us living on the South Shore, Boston income is over $80,000 compared to around here, which I think you brought up earlier was $50,000. It's different, and so. What happens to folks that, that actually make a little bit more money, but they now don't qualify for your programs, but yet don't qualify for workforce housing because they don't quite make enough yet? And I've got to believe there are people that get caught in that.
Yeah, absolutely. It happens.
And what happens?
It happens all the time. And so there are programs where we can provide home buyer education and foreclosure prevention if they have homes, but there is this income target that is in between, just like
there's a big gap in there. Yes,
exactly, where you don't qualify for DTA assistance or childcare support or even transportation assistance, yet you're not making enough to make it, and so that's where the families are just 10 people in one household trying to make it work.
It's funny you say that. We just came off a campaign cycle, and I was knocking a lot of doors during the campaign, and I noticed that. I noticed, multiple cars in people's driveways. I noticed from the sheets that we were looking at, targeted houses that we were going to, various names, last names, and I noticed going there, knocking on doors, different people in the house. It's not like a mother and father and 2 kids. Yeah. It's different families. Or they may be cousins or uncles or aunts or something, but you saw multiple people. You're absolutely right, and I saw that a lot around here.
It's expensive. Massachusetts is incredibly expensive state. We're out there with New York and California, and so our families making $18 an hour working at Amazon delivering boxes is not cutting it for a rent that is around $1,600 for a 1-bedroom apartment in Plymouth. Yeah. So there is a lot of components that need to come together, training people to become more specialty, to apply for jobs that are paying higher, so that you become more proficient in what you're doing, you're getting paid more, but also you're also working on legislature that is supporting those families that are working, our workforce families, so that they're the in-betweens, right? They're not making a lot of money, they're not making pennies, and so that the financial assistance is not there. So there is a lot of legislature and work to be done, but
and you bring up a great point, the training too, the workforce training that the state offers too, and there, we talk about the unemployment is below, a little above 3% and all that, but still, there are a lot of jobs out there, and if we could just learn to train people in different areas to make more money, I think that would make a lot more sense. So funding more money into workforce development and things like that I think will go a long way, don't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Training our young communities for more specialty jobs.
Exactly.
It's much harder to find a qualified plumber or an electrician just because they're not out there anymore. And so one that has qualifications is $150 an hour or so. And so we don't have many of those anymore because we need to train more people into specialty jobs.
I also think too that we talked about education earlier, that and not that there's anything wrong with education, but I think there's been a generation or two that's been really pushing people to go to school, get a degree and all this, but you just bring up another great point, that electricians and plumbers, the average age is well over 50 years old.
Oh, yeah.
We're not seeing younger people coming into it. So one of the things that the governor and lieutenant governor have been trying to push as well is folks, kids coming out of high school, go to trade schools, or take trade, if you have vocational school training in your high schools, do that so you can come out and go to a trade, electrician, plumber, and there's so many others. I talked to a gentleman about 2 or 3 weeks ago in Plymouth, 24 years old. He just bought a house. He's engaged. He's going to get married, and he has no debt. And what he did was he became an electrician, and he went to the vocational school, learned that, then went on to the trade and got educated on that, and now he has his own business.
That's great.
And there's nothing wrong. Like you said, they make $100, $150 an hour.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that, and that's what we need to encourage people more to do that.
Yeah, it's all true. We need to encourage people to get educated, to train themselves so that we can see that workforce develop into much stronger jobs that will stimulate the economy, and so that we can afford those
jobs and housing go hand in hand.
Oh, absolutely, and housing
I think people are
is
figuring
key.
that out now, and housing's the key. Exactly.
Oh, housing is key because once it's a basic need, the need for shelter, and so once you're housed and once you have a shelter above your head, then you can worry about other things because you don't have to really worry about winter is coming and my children are sleeping in the car anymore. You have a safe house, and so now you can focus on childcare, and now you can focus on, well, what am I going to do now that I have childcare and housing? And so it's all the pieces getting together for the families that are out there and our elderly population.
We haven't talked about that. You're right. Yeah.
And so
what are the waiting lists for elders?
It's the same. It's all the same. And so all I can think about is like, it's so cold outside this morning. How many people are out there suffering this cold? And it's a relief to know that there are programs supporting people that are elderly, are housed, that you don't have to endure this cold, that there are services like our organization provides so that there are housing. There is a shelter above your head, and now you can worry about what's the next step to move towards self-sufficiency.
So this may sound like a dumb question, but this show is called State Matters. So how does the state really matter to your organization?
Well, the state to us is huge. It's our main source of funding. It changes policy. The state manages all the money that is coming into our programs, and so we encourage the state to continue providing legislation that supports affordable housing, that encourage developers to build affordable housing. Tax credits are key.
Sure.
People want to build and make money. People want to build and make money and also assist low-income people through affordable units. Incentivize our current landlords, a small mom and pop trying to rent to a low-income family. How can we provide incentives to those small landlords so that they are encouraged to rent to our families, to our workforce?
Yeah, another bill that the governor filed didn't quite get passed, but it's still in the front burner, and I'm hoping it's going to get passed, I think it was bill number 4290, which really looks at some of those incentives for developers, looks at zoning changes to make it easier for zoning for developers, et cetera, to do exactly what you're saying, to help stimulate that and really make them affordable. We were talking about a program in Plymouth that just received a MassWorks grant. Not a MassWorks grant. It was another grant for like $1 million, but it was for workforce housing. But the average is going to be $350,000 for a 2-bedroom condo. I mean, is that really affordable for a family of four? That it's really not. So
it's not.
Yeah, so there needs to be a lot. And I assume it's millions and millions of dollars that come to you from the state.
Yeah, we just in my programs, in the rental assistance program, we're between paying our landlords and the different programs just within rental assistance, it's around $3 million to $4 million a month, just because we have that many families getting assistance, like subsidized housing, and so we're moving a lot of money so that we can support these families, but a lot of money comes from them as well. They have a tenant share, is what we call, so they pay 30 to 40% of their income towards that rent. And so we're all putting money in to make sure that there is that affordable housing and safe shelter for elderly, for families.
What are some of the other challenges for the low-income families? What do they face here in Plymouth County?
Well, lack of affordable housing. There's just not
Because
enough
of that wait list.
stock. Yeah.
That wait list is 10,000 people. Does that include all your programs combined?
Yes, well, through the rental assistance
Yeah, the
program, what we
rental
call
assistance, yeah.
permanent housing.
Yeah.
Yes, that's been purged, so that will
Yeah.
there'll definitely be a change to that. But one of the challenges is definitely lack of housing stock. We bring people in, we want to issue them vouchers, and they go into their merry way to look for units, and they just can't find any.
So that's the process. You give them the vouchers, it's up to them to find it.
Yes. And so they
Then
can't.
what do you do?
They can't find any. So we give them extensions, and sometimes it's sad, but they've waited 10 years to get a voucher, and the voucher expires. It has.
How long do the vouchers last for?
So a voucher is 60 days with an extension of 30 days. If you're elderly or disabled, you can qualify for a reasonable accommodation, which gives you almost unlimited time to look for housing. However, if you're not, you're in a pickle because you're out there with a voucher saying this is how much I can afford, yet there is nothing that is affordable out there.
How do they find these places? Do you actually give them lists? And
Oh yeah, we provide some searching engines. We do a lot of housing search training, but they go out there because that's the beauty of the program. You get to choose where you live, and so there is a lot of dignity in that, and so there's one of the things about the program. But that also has consequences. If you can't find affordable housing within the allotted time frame, that's it. You waited 10 years and you just didn't find it, and
what do they do?
they go back into a wait list, and it's unfortunate.
But then where do they go?
Exactly.
They just live in this current situation they're living in?
Exactly.
Whatever
So
that is. It
they
could be homeless, it could be
They could get
in a room,
temporary
or-
assistance, but it's not permanent, which is what we're looking for. Permanent that can lead you to self-sufficiency. So it's unfortunate.
How do people get a hold of you if they need to get a hold of you folks?
So-
Is there a website? Or?
Absolutely. So go to our website. It's www.housingsolutions, SEMA,
SEMA.
Southeastern Massachusetts.
Okay.
.org, or
.org.
call our main number, 781-422-4200. If you think that you need our assistance, if you want to find more about our programs, if you want to donate towards our programs, please check out our website.
We'll make sure we put this up there too. And
Absolutely.
what percentage do you get donated?
Well, no, I don't.
Small
I don't
percentage,
deal
but
with
yeah.
donations
But
myself.
there's a small percentage of people that donate.
Yeah,
I
we-
bet you a
we
lot
have
of people don't even know they can donate for something like this.
Oh,
And that's great to know. That's great information. We'll make sure we get out on.
absolutely,
Yeah.
because that supports our programs, that supports everything, our home buyer education programs, our temporary assistance programs.
That's terrific.
We even have a domestic violence shelter that we run. So that all their donations support all our programs that in return are supporting
And I
our
believe as
communities.
housing becomes more and more talked about, which it is now, it's rising to the top of most people's lists now, donations will be a way to help out too, and we need to
Yes.
get that word out. So I want to thank you so much for coming on
Thank you
today.
for
We
bringing
could have
me in.
spent another hour talking about this.
Absolutely.
But really appreciate what you do, and I'll be one in the legislature that'll keep fighting and working and trying to come up with solutions to help people
That's
out.
what we
So,
need, advocates.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you for what you do, so we really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
We hope you enjoyed today's show, and I want to thank the entire team here at PAC TV for another great show and for all they do for our communities. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time on State Matters.